first question that I have for you is, when you think of Christine, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Um, I think high IQ.
High IQ.
Yep.
Can you elaborate more? How do you determine that she's got a high IQ?
She is a person who thinks very fast, who um, understands the technology very well, is very, very scientifically oriented, and I see her racing, in her mind when she's faced with technical or scientific challenges way faster than other people who sort of have a stop, a slow, I shouldn't say slower, but maybe, a more regular um, process of
I see.
reaching through a problem, going through, navigating through the steps, and perhaps reaching the same conclusion. But in Kristin's case, I see her dynamically faster than others.
Got it. And when you say she is faster than others,
yes.
Will you? I'm just trying to get a perception of this. Will you think that? Will you agree that sometimes she jumps to conclusions really fast?
I would, yes. I do think that since her mind just does work at that speed, perhaps sometimes it seems hasty.
Okay.
Her approach to conclusions, or her I not like completely blanketed like that, but in some cases I do see that. Yeah.
Got it. What do you think are her, other than the fact that she's extremely high Q, what are other key strengths of hers?
Key strengths, again, I think a lot of it goes back to the fact that she is technically and scientifically very embedded in what we do. Mm-hmm. I do think a lot of it comes from the technical aspects of the job, where she's able to what's the word? She's able to connect things very easily and quickly on the technical side. And on the non-technical side, I would think that she does have a vision for what's coming next. Not just in terms of, again, the technical bottlenecks or technical advances that need to be made, but also organizationally. I think she has a good view and understanding of what could be coming next. Out of that view and vision, however, I think what comes as a negative to me is that sometimes she takes a pretty pessimistic standpoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think that pessimistic standpoint is because she looks ahead and looks at the potential challenges that she might have, or is she just negative overall? Or what's your sense of?
I think if you'd asked this question to me 6 months ago, I would have said, in a balanced way, negative and positive. Like, I mean, I mean, that's similar position, and I see myself becoming pretty damp and negative about some situations, and trying to project, yes, I have it under control, but internally feeling like, oh God, this is a shit show, right?
Yeah.
In her case, I would say in the recent months, I've seen more pessimism than optimism somehow.
Got it.
But I think that's to some extent aligned with some changes that we've had here as well. Yeah.
Got it. In the way you see things, the way she you see her doing her work, what is the one thing that do you think that she can do in order to add more impact to her role?
I think a little more balance.
Balance in terms of
her own projection of where her organization is, or where her project is, or where her responsibilities are. I know, things go up and down, like, in our very own little sphere around us, right? But in my mind, I feel she lets it take over, and she needs to kind of build a balance. Internally is another challenge, but I think projecting externally, she needs to build a balance where don't react to the same extent outwardly as you feel internally. You know what I'm saying?
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So she's a very open person, I guess. So it's pretty transparent.
Yeah.
What she's going through is quite visible, and I do understand what she's going through, but I've talked to her on this myself, where I've been trying to talk to her about let's just, I'm going through the same turmoil, and I'm sure if I had a review with my peers, similar things would come out. But at least with each other, we try to help each other out with whatever ups and downs we go through. And my advice to her, even on her face, is like, you need to filter it. You have to sort of build a barrier between all that you feel and how it comes out.
Yeah. In this particular, addressing this particular situation, what is the one thing that she does specifically? Like, what's the behavior like when that you would like her to to address or to change or modify? What's the specific behavior?
I think she gets very should I say like, it's obvious that she's upset about let's say something that doesn't go as she would want it to go. Like, not everything, I mean, trivial things doesn't matter, but bigger things, they don't happen as she in her favor, let's say, or as she was expecting the outcome to be.
How does that manifest in her? How does that manifest in her?
She sounds pissed, and I think she gets either obviously quiet or reactive, which at least I can sense. So I'm thinking others can as well. So it becomes a little obvious.
I see.
Yeah.
And what do you think that she, if you were giving her advice to change that, what advice would you give her? What
to just not look too near term is the advice I give her. Like, immediate what should I say? Immediately, the immediate impact is not what you need to focus on. Is how I dialogue with her, and like, overall, the this one decision or disagreement, or let's say impasse, doesn't change the overall picture, and the overall picture is still good. So yes, it's negative right now, but push it aside, right? I mean, at least don't dwell on it in the moment.
Well, one of the things that we talked earlier is about that she's a quick thinker.
Very quick thinker, yes.
And do you think that this has to do with the fact that she gets frustrated because she wants to solve the problems right away, right at the moment?
Yeah, and I think I think the problem she has in perhaps from this thinking aspect and applying everything that she's learned to everything that's happening, she sometimes likes to create the absolute edge case scenarios because she does know the scenario very well, but perhaps doesn't weigh it with what's the probability of that happening. Yes, you could say that, hey, San Francisco is submerging in the next 100 years. The probability of that happening is 0.5%, right?
Yep.
So that, I think, is where, again, this is my perception, right?
No, yeah,
that's where I think some of her arguments and viewpoints sound extreme, because what she's saying is not wrong, but what are the chances of that happening, or weighing it or balancing it with, like, okay, yes, this is the extreme that could happen, and this may not happen, but you need to be aware that this can happen. And then build the scenario around it appropriately. I think sometimes it gets a little misconstrued, right, by people listening or trying to get to the same page that she is. And as I said, she does move very fast. So not everybody moves at that same pace.
I got it. The other question that I have in related to that is, because she moves very fast, do you feel that sometimes she's not comfortable with silence? In other words, is that she doesn't take a little time to think about what she says? She just has the pressure of having all the answers. Do you think that is something that resonates?
I'm not sure. I've seen her. I mean, the situations where I've seen problems in other ones where she has the need to express herself. I haven't been in too many situations, where my interaction with her is not on a daily, like, we're not on the same project really.
Correct.
We overlap on certain things, and I do have a good relationship with her, so I'm always looking to help her. And we both like to support each other. But I can't speak to that question too much. I don't have any.
Got it. Just think about personally. I mean, what is the one thing that she could actually do in order to help you achieve your goals?
Me?
Yes.
I do get a lot of strategy kind of input from her that I actually utilize for my own project. So I try to actually use her acumen as well as her strengths, especially on the technical, on the portfolio side. Like, she has a good understanding of the space and the product line and how things talk to each other. And I do try to take advice from her on those aspects, as well as I'm newer on the technical side in this area, so I definitely reach out to her for things that I don't understand or need help in getting deeper into. She's definitely a resource for me that way, and is always very forthcoming with helping, and she comes from a good place. So she definitely is constantly providing support, and if she sees me frustrated, she's one of the first people to reach out and
got it
and try to even let me vent out, so I reach a better place, right?
So picture this engagement, like 6 months or 4 months from now. What would you be looking for as a sign of improvement from her?
I think a little bit better control over her own emotions.
Got it.
And not personalizing things too much, where she sometimes I think gets into that where
She does.
it hurts rather than helps her.
Yeah. How do you cope? Because you guys are on the same pressure, right? I mean, you basically how do you cope with that? I mean, what's your strategy to control your your emotions?
I try. I mean, I'm in the same mess as she is. I'm a different person. My personality is different from hers. Some people might find me way quieter than I need to, not as aggressive as I should be. But in terms of just dealing with the turmoil and the pressure, I think I may be able to project calmness. Not that I am calm, but and it does. It helps calm. Like we have lots of people who are channeling our energy, right?
Yeah.
There's a groups of people who look up to your facial expressions, your body language, your interaction with your peers and your bosses or upper management to feel secure about what they are doing, right? You know what I mean? And I try to keep that in my mind all the time. Like, my reaction is only going to bring a lack of security for my group.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that is what needs to sink in. Like, and I have very good relation with my group, and I have one of my team members who sits exactly opposite to me and is looking at me pretty much is looking at me, but is able to, look at me pretty much anytime I'm sitting at my desk. Yeah. And I have a great relationship with her. I'm thankful for that, but she reminds me, like, oh no, Soni, what happened today? And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean what happened? This is something that I'm trying to like partition or not share, or, it's something that may have happened, but as far as I know, I've not indicated, like, trying my best not to let it out.
Yeah.
But she's so perceptive, and I still go through my emotions.
I think that we all have,
roller coaster symptoms, and the symptoms of a turmoil, right, that comes out one way or the other. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, how do you even know? And she's like, oh, there are clues. And I'm like, oh wow, like, okay.
Got it.
So in Kristin's, but I tell Kristin that I have to be super careful about what my body language is, because even if I put my computer down, like, in a way that's not my usual casual self, it's noticeable,
Yeah.
And some amount of anger and I think reaction should be shared. I mean, there is a dose effect, I think, and that's the key point here. How much of it needs to come out and how much of it can stay inside. And there are times when I lose it completely and make a big scene. But I think balancing that a little bit is crucial to leadership.
Got it. I am pretty much done with the questions that I needed to ask. Is there anything that you haven't, that I haven't asked or you haven't told me that you think that would be relevant for Kristin?
I did want to share one more thing, because I think I got into sharing a lot of her weaknesses, but I did want to share something positive that I think from a people aspect, she is very, very, not devoted is not the right word, but she's very protective of her people.
Okay.
So I've seen this, and we share some resources. So I get this feedback from those shared resources as well, where I strive very hard to be protective of my people and appreciate them as well, and I think when I hear that same thing about her from my folks, and they say both you and Kristin, or just Kristin alone, even in some cases, I feel really good because that's something we do struggle with a lot here of protecting people from pressure, from direct impact, from, making a buffer around them where they feel they have the security of their bosses. So I do think that's a positive in Kristin that I overlooked to mention.
When you say she's protective of her people, what's the behavior that she displays when she's protective of her people? Is what?
So she's willing to take the bullets,
okay,
for a timeline pressure without letting her people get crushed in that, timeline cascade that is always there, right? And it's up to the managers and the project leads to sort of stop that from suffocating your people, which I think I want to also recognize that it's something that she's incorporated, and I think it's a positive change from what I saw in the past.
Awesome. And do you think that how does that fit with her team or with the people, her managers? Let's put it that way. What's the impact of that protection?
I think it may be too early to see an impact. It's a change that I am noticing. I hope that the impact is visible soon enough if this continues, but I do think it's going in the right direction.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, Soni, I really appreciate this, and I am very impressed that you decided to take a walk. I am a walker too, so I like to meet walking. I meet my clients. Hey, let's go for a walk, and
I know.
And that is not very common. People don't like that they walk.
I know. I get this from my one-on-one people. Are like, they already assume that I'll ask them for a walk. And they're like, my knee is hurting today. I'm like, sorry, let's sit down. But I almost look forward to.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love to to do that too.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for this. This has been very, very helpful.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And
the last thing that I will